Hello and welcome to Dax Electronic Repair. We're going to be doing an iPhone 14 today, not 11. This is a 14. All right, standard 14, broken screen. Pentalobe screws out of the bottom first. That's kind of how they all begin. And then you're going to want to get your razor blade out and start prying. These are real tight. Real super tight and the edges, the frames on these are real thin. So if you're not replacing the screen, be real careful prying these out because they're very fragile and they're in there real tight. No gaps, very small gaps. So get in there, work your way around. Once you get your razor blade in, you can get your pick in there and just go all the way around. This is a new design. It's different than any other ones that I've seen, even different than the 13. Everything is under, similar to the iPads, the iPad minis, and even the iPods. There's a whole metal frame and bracket that covers all the electrical components on the inside, motherboard, everything, with just two little covers that we're going to be taking off. The first one is for the screen itself. It's the lower one, and it kind of hinges in. The bracket hinges in, so you pop that one out. And then the top one is for your front facing things, floodlight, illuminator, things like that, microphones. Same deal, it hinges in. I don't know if you can see, kind of you have to pry it out from the bottom, and there's a little bracket that it inserts in. You'll see a little bit better when I put it back together. But that's how you do it. That's how you get the screen off. Everything else is completely covered up. Brand new design. Unfortunately, that also means the battery, I did not pull the battery cable off on this one, which I usually preach religiously to do that. I did not do that on this one because it was under that cover. All right, so front facing assembly we're going to be taking off and transferring to the new screen because it is paired to the phone. And this one's similar to the 13 in that it has this huge ribbon cable that is adhesive to the front of the screen. So you got to be real careful. You got to pry this thing up. I'm using heat gun, 100 degrees Celsius from my rework station. Let's go real slow, pry it up slowly. Again, these are paired to the phones themselves, so if you break it, you will lose the functionality of your Face ID, things like that. So be real careful. Use the heat. Let it heat up real nice, and then you can start prying the components up once you get the big part out first. And even these are real small ribbon cables, real fragile. You can see right there how skinny those things are. Real easy to pull and completely destroy. So be careful. All right, so we got it off our old screen. We're going to transfer it to our new screen. Not much to this. Same as usual. You just got to make sure your sensors go in their little holes. Everything lines up properly. And then you take, there's enough adhesive to put it back to where it was in the similar position on the old screen. You can kind of use it as a guideline where it actually sat. It doesn't quite follow the frame, but it's kind of parallel to it. So yeah, right about there is good. So transferred again. We have a bracket that has two screws, and again another kind of hinged thing. They're all the brackets are they have little retaining tabs that they fit into and kind of pivot down that holds them and kind of levers them into place. But they are a little bit finicky. The receiving tabs are very small. The bracket itself is very small. So you got to kind of get it in the exact right position. Yeah, see that little tiny tab? Yeah, and then it'll go down and it'll sit in the right place. Otherwise it won't, and it won't hold it in firmly. 2 screws go back in. They are tri-tips. Are they? No, they may be Phillips. I'm sorry. But anyway, so now we're going to go ahead and test the screen. These are also fidgety to get back in. You want to do the top one first with it like that, and then kind of flip it back over so you can get your screen assembly into the right place. Otherwise, that top one will not go in if you do the screen assembly first. It kind of just walks around on you. So right now we're just making sure this new screen powers on, does what it's supposed to do, and it does. So now we can put everything back together. So pop it back off. Other interesting thing is this is the first one I've seen that only uses one ribbon cable for the screen itself. Usually there's 2, one for the digitizer and one for the screen. This one is all on one ribbon cable. Anyway, interesting to me, maybe not to you. Oh, that was me dropping something. All right, so now get the old adhesive off. Now, this one was almost brand new, and the adhesive was very good, and it's a new sort of substance. I'm not sure what it is, but it retained its stickiness and seal pretty well. So I actually didn't scrape the whole thing off. I just put a new one on top. It's also very, very thin, so you are able to do that. I wasn't worried about it raising it up too much. So there I go. Put the new gasket on there. New adhesive. Again, very thin. I just wanted to cover up the damaged area. And there you go. And then I kind of had to fix a little bit of the stuff that walked around. All right, again, you take the top first, plug it in. It's like the older ones. You always wanted to do that first and then flip it around on the 8s and that sort of thing, if you remember any of those. You always wanted to do the top first. And then you put your bottom on. Now we're actually going to put our brackets in as well for final assembly. I'm hoping I can show you this pretty well. So, my big fat hands are in the way. But see that retaining tab on that bracket? I actually kind of fell in there, and I didn't like that. That was bad. But there's a little tab, and you'll see once I actually... It's almost like operation at this point. Because it kind of fell down in. There we go. All right. And be careful when you're using metal tools around energized electronics. You got to be real, real careful. All right. So that little tab goes into a little slot there and then levers down. Now I did that pretty quickly. You may not have been able to see it, but there's a retaining tab that you have to lever in for it to sit properly. So that's the top. The bottom one actually has a very similar... You have to insert it at the right angle, and then it levers down. Yeah, you couldn't see any of that. Sorry, bad cameraman, who is also me. So sorry about that. And then you just put your screws back in. Those are tri-tips. And then you just want to put the screen back in. Start at the top, lever it in. Be real careful when putting the screens back in. If it's off by any and you're squeezing on these screens, you will crack them. Like I said, they're very fragile. These are the most fragile screens I've seen so far, and the 12s on up have been very fragile and very tight fitting. But it will fit in real tight like that. And then the last thing you want to do is put your pentalobes back in. If they're hitting where their screw holes go, I mean, if they thread in, that means you've got it in the right place. And you just want to go around and make sure everything is sitting pretty. And turn it on and make sure everything is doing what it's supposed to be doing. With this one, I actually had to plug it into power because it didn't recognize the screen and it had not been turned off. That is something you may have to do. Or a quick soft reset will fix that as well. But there it is. You did it. Good job. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for checking out my video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. And again, thank you for watching. I love you all.